It's November 28th, 2022. I am in this, and I'm watching the evening news on on the Eyewitness News at 7. They're running a story about this FIFA World Cup, or FIFA. Um, they pronounce Qatar. I don't, it's 2002, and then it has a USA. Now, I'm watching the symbols. The one symbol, I don't know what they call it elsewhere, but to me it looks like an acht or an eight. Um, uh, and then they have this USA symbol that looks very Union Pacific. I'm just saying it just, I mean, there's slight differences, but I've seen it used on the railroad side of Union Pacific, watching this big board of communication as it comes across with some of the symbols and not really knowing where or when or what they're used for. But just recently being more hyper vigilant of what's coming across. Um, now, um, they also mention they have this apparently now in New York on the news media. I've heard this country referred to as Iran. It used to be the Iraq and Iran stories that ran in the media, which I've heard via radio and not anything real specific. I just know that there was war that broke out and there was some mention of it at some time frame. I don't even know what year it happened. Um, and that was the way that they pronounced it. But in my life frame, my father's from Italy, and I've heard the Americans refer to it as Itali, like Itali, or like the Italians. Again, not real quite. I'm not ever quite sure what that means, but it's whatever it is to whoever says it. And humans are a fickle creatures. So I'm listening to that, and then I hear there's a reporter in Iran. That's how they prefer to be pronounced, just like Italy prefers that pronunciation, or so I would think. Um, and so I'm listening, and they sound a little angry about the mispronunciation by the USA representative that's on the TV screen. Um, Hotspot I was not aware of until this moment. Um, and then they make mention of the symbol, which looks very from it looks it looks like a symbol that has significant script meaning. I just did not know that they associated with a sound that makes the word God, or God. Um, did not know that that's the symbol that they use to represent it. Um, I haven't been taught that here. I've been taught just recently that with that symbol, and I tied that symbol to some locals that drive around the neighborhood. Um, I live on something called a Northern Boulevard by by the police precinct, and they dangle in silver from the rearview mirror, that symbol. I didn't know what it meant at first, but they've been pointing out some things with this new soccer fad that's going on, FAD. I don't really know what else to call it. Is it trending maybe, fad? Again, do I stay in the three-letter category for the God? Do I stay in, I don't really know. Um so I'm watching this, and then they show England has a flag with a white background and a red cross. I had no idea. I'm like, that is news to me. I have never seen England referred to as a white background with a red cross. I'm like, I'm learning something every day on this machine because it's not stuff that is readily accessible in the local schools. Um, and there's apparently some corporate league that needs these symbols to be in place and that people are aware and conscious of them. But how to gain access to that again, and who needs to study what, especially with whatever's going on in the whatever. I'm watching the board today and I'm like, oh, because whenever they refer to England, it's always England and the UK are like synonymous for some reason. And the only time they ever mention England is really when it has something to do with the Queen, which is very rare. And it has a completely different flag. It's blue, red, white, and blue with stars on it, which looks like they have a mini version somewhere in Australia on their flag, which again, um, there's not a lot of flag education. Like there's these participation inside this shell of the United States. We have this landmass which uses this as the highest symbol of these United States, and then this corporate whatever that goes into this. But it is very confusing when the other intricate pieces are not spoken of and are just moving people, materials, corporations, money, chemicals in and out, and just trying to like just survive at this point. um I'm like, it is taking forever to even figure out, like, how do I survive from now until my death? God forbid it takes 40 more years into my 80s. I mean, I'm just a flower in the garden. No idea where Hummingbird went. But I have no idea, just as like one horse on an escalator, how to make it day by day, let alone, and now my health is deteriorating and I can't even get answers on that, which is even more disgusting in this area, but here we are.
This time tomorrow, we will know if the U.S. men's national soccer team advances in the World Cup or if they're coming back home to the States.
They need to beat Iran to move on in this tournament. The match with Iran, of course, growing more and more political by the day. In fact, Iran wants the U.S. team disqualified.
Probably not going to happen.
Probably not.
Sports anchor Ryan Field is here with the competition on and off the field. Ryan.
Bill and Michelle, that's definitely not going to happen. From a purely sports standpoint, it's all very simple. It's literally win or go home. A loss or a tie won't be enough to advance in this tournament, but before this crucial showdown with Iran, U.S. coaches and players are talking more politics off the field rather than play on it.
Our focus is on this match.
U.S. coach Greg Berhalter trying to distance himself and his team from the latest controversy leading up to tomorrow's.
Now, I see they wear this Volkswagen VW on their shirts. No idea what that means in the big wide world of symbols and corporates and private equity and public utility. I'm really confused at this whole building up to this time frame and how people are participating in any fashion or manner.
Huge match against Iran. Over the weekend, the U.S. Soccer Federation decided.
So now this says something about a Group B. I don't even know what that means in sports terms, but I found this interesting. It was this flag with England. I've never seen them associated. Usually it's the red, white, and blue with some stars and a red cross. Then they've got this, but with no symbol. which is part of the controversy. And then they have this as Wales. I mean, I've never even really heard them mention Wales before. So that's confusing. And then you've got USA right there at number 3.
Decided to doctor Iran's flag in social media postings.
Doctor it. That sounds like there's some kind of permission for whatever was being done in order to prove some kind of a point at doctor level. Isn't that how the highly educated run their civilized rules and keeping and checking and so on and so forth? I mean, one would theorize that that would be some form of permission at some level. I have no idea at what level, though.
Removing the official emblem and 2 lines of Islamic script.
We had no idea about what U.S. Soccer put out. The staff, the players had no idea.
The U.S. Soccer Federation did release a statement saying they decided to forego the official flag to, quote, show support for the women in Iran fighting for basic human rights. Still, journalists today pressing team captain Tyler Adams in what became a bit of a contentious exchange.
Listen, we support Iran's people and Iran's team. But that being said, we're laser focused on this match, as they are as well.
First of all, you say you support the Iranian people, but you're pronouncing our country's name wrong. Our country is named Iran, not Iran. Please, once and for all, let's get this clear.
My apologies on the mispronunciation of your country.
The reporter also asked Adams a politically charged question about discrimination against black people in the USA.
There's discrimination everywhere you go. One thing that I've learned.
It's really interesting. In my life frame, I have not seen any discrimination ever in my presence. Whatever room I'm in, I have never witnessed discrimination against black or brown people. Not ever. In a civilized nation, while I'm in the room, they've acted cordially for the most part and civilly for the most part. And I have not seen things being taken away and given to others. So I'm a little confused where this argument gains so much momentum. I've heard stories that they drag up from the dredges of the past before my life even began here on this planet. But it's certainly not a testament to what is currently going on. I mean, how do they benchmark progress? I mean, clearly there's a lot on representing this US team, and the ratios of opportunity speak for itself, glaringly so, and across multiple sports platforms, might I add, in the progress and how that argument no longer even has weight or bears any resemblance to where it began, but yet is now encroaching on the safety of others that have done whatever they did to get to this point of it's a moot point now. That's what it feels like. But yet it keeps loudly being promoted for I don't know whose agenda.
And especially from living abroad in the past years and having to fit in different cultures and kind of assimilate into different cultures, is that in the U.S. we're continuing to make progress every single day.
Certainly a well-crafted answer from the well-composed 23-year-old. Tyler Adams grew up in Dutchess County and went to high school in Wappinger Falls. He also played for the Red Bulls from 2016 to 2019. All of that experience sets the stage for one huge match tomorrow as he and his teammates take the field at 2 against Iran with their World Cup hopes on the line. Bill?
A lot of composure there, young man. Can we kick it right?
Oh, yes, we can, but we'll talk more about this big match.
So, like in a quality assurance kind of a way of information, that's since I don't have somebody actively calling and polling, what has my human experience been in the field with a letter from the GOD or pointing me in that direction? for however my Glenn began. It's just interesting. And then this morning, the CBS, they prefaced it just slightly different, which I'm going to pause this and go back to that just to see the difference between how they aired the evening news and where this morning's interpretation of it or this morning's airing of it began. Okay, so now this was from CBS this morning, or CBS this morning. And this is on the same controversy, but they focus more on the symbol being taken off and then putting back on. I just happened to catch Second Wind in the evening, and my eye went straight to the flags and the language written next to these flags that I had never seen displayed in this manner. I don't know where they teach other people about this, but first news for me on being brought to my attention.
World Cup in Qatar, Team USA faces a must-win game that turned even more political. The U.S. will play Iran tomorrow. The last time they played each other in a World Cup was in 1998 in Iran.
Now, this is some form of, it feels like somebody's creating a controverse or a controverse to get on the screen in order to show or use as a teaching tool for something else. I don't know what level of doctor has access to that level of permission. I don't. Again, I'm stuck somewhere between human and artificial, and I'm just a flower in the garden at this point. I mean, I have a son that single sun solar system is what they do teach in school, that they've carried forward. Just at galaxies and parts of the system that are broken, there are still parts that work. It's just, this is called a controverse or some whatever, but there has to have been some form of doctor involved and some form of permission with rule keeping and so on and so forth, just so nobody gets hurt or whatever in the whatever outside of my realm of knowing things.
And Iran won. This time, the U.S. must win to get to the second round. The matchup has already stirred controversy after online posts that Iran's government calls an insult. Roxana Sabiri is in Qatar with the story.
We've seen a bit of pregame drama here in Doha. This weekend, the U.S. Soccer Federation briefly posted social media images of Iran's flag without the emblem of the Islamic Republic of Iran at its center. The emblem is the word Allah or God in stylized script added to Iran's flag after the 1979 Islamic Revolution. For around 24 hours, the U.S. men's team displayed posts and a Twitter banner of the squad's matches with the Iranian flag bearing only its green, white, and red stripes. Then last night, those images were removed and the emblem is back on the flag. A spokesperson for the U.S. Soccer Federation explained the modified flag was meant to show support for women's rights as protests shake Iran. But the posts were, quote, meant to be a moment. And another Federation official told me the decision to return to Iran's official flag was made after additional conversations without elaborating. Iran's state media say the country's soccer federation.
Moment being spelled MOM and then an ENT. To speak doctor, that sounds like gastroenterology. In the GI tract of some sort.
Has asked FIFA to issue a serious warning to the U.S. Soccer Federation. 2 U.S. players told a news conference here last night they had not been aware of the flag alteration, but added they empathize with women protesting in Iran. The U.S. takes on Iran here tomorrow. It's an all-or-nothing showdown, with the U.S. needing a win to move forward to the next round. For CBS Mornings, Roxana Saberi, Doha.
Roxana, thank you.
Now, when I first entered the Bayside School here, and I'm not talking about a flying academy, um, but they called this place Bayside, and it was public school. And when I entered that building, which now has the bell that says West Troy on it with some other whatever that I've documented, along with some of the other metal in the streets. Um, when I entered that school, at some point there was something called a flag day. All sorts of flags were displayed. I have photos. I've also documented um, of, but no letters next to any of the flags. Just the flag patterns. Flag patterns were not reinforced and were not a carry forward. Not only like the information did not carry forward several days, several moments after the human experience. Something else is going on. I don't know what. But between atmospheric interference and the flags being displayed to my person, that they exist without letters, just patterns, there was no reinforcement of what they meant. There was no tie in with maps of the world. There was none of that. There's nothing in easy memory recall through a human experience that would even qualify as the word teaching or education in the city of New York or in the Queens of New York for the building that I was in before I was moved to the Glen, where there was only one flag, which was this one in the rooms daily. And that was whatever that was in whatever was taught there. But there was, in I think our vans, when they did the Smithsonian loan of the one item that I wore in pageantry of some sort, they right around that time we had a very specific short list of agreed upon by I don't know whom, somebody at the Board of Education, somebody in the district. I there's only a few, there's only really like two. Thank you, that I know for sure that were brought up. Again, the memory recall from that long ago has not carried forward through the decades, which is just another bigger, more with like quantum computation and multiple sciences and programs and whatever that have been going on in it just seems like real confusion has broken out, which is why I always go back to the one thing we are told is there is one solar disk in the sky. There's one sun solar system. I happen to know that if the sun and the visual spectrum completely disappears, I have been in a time and space where there is no light anywhere, but yet human consciousness and human figure still existed in, I don't know what kind of complex or simplex and consciousness arrangement that was. I have no idea. There's a lot of things that go on that, so it's interesting for me to see this because it's a way of bringing forth the information, but It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza, it's Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxies broken, and it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.